This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
It's Mozz! It's Chad! We really want to be a country. Open the next line. It's Mozz! It's Chad! And we really want to be a friend. Hey, cats and kittens. Welcome back to the AKA JonesCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esther, and with me, as always, is my svelte, wealthy friend.
It's Mozz.
Yeah, you know, I say that he is actually a beautiful, beautiful man. If you ever get a chance to see him, he is just drop dead gorgeous.
Well, that's very kind of you. I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah.
No, I show you pictures of other people that go like, oh wow, okay, yeah, Mozz. I see why you call him that. It's like, yeah, I told you. People don't believe me. He's like freaking supermodel gorgeous. But anyway, moving right along. Tonight's episode, season 3, episode 4, aka Customer Service is Standing By. Jessica learns there's more to Eric than meets the eye as they track down 3 potential attackers. Malcolm digs up dirt on Kit's husband. Our director this week is Lizelle Tommy. Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gatos, of course, get our Marvel Created by credits. Jesse Harris is our staff writer this week. Our story editor is Jay Holtzman. Melissa Rosenberg, of course, gets her Created by credit, but our real hardest working person in show business this week is the one, the only friend of the show, Jamie King. We are working on having a nice sit down and talk with Jamie King, and we're very excited about it. Okay, but let's get to this episode before we go completely off the rails. And so, for those who remember last episode, we do a little time jump here, but you know, at the last episode, you know, Jessica Jones realizes that Eric, our delightful hobo, who makes good hamburgers. At least he thinks he does. Well, they're good hamburgers, you know. But then he has to go through all the steps he does, but that's a whole other thing. But Eric Geldin is our delightful hobo and current booty call of Jessica Jones. She realizes that this has something to do with him. That whoever tried to kill her is with him, and we jump back in time apparently to him being drowned by a delightful family of bookies. I mean, really, they do seem truly delightful, even as evil as they are. And we see that basically because Eric has not made good on his gambling debts, they have tied a weight to him and thrown him into the pool. Which, you know, I do wonder about. It's very artistic and it's very symbolic as a great way to sort of punish a guy, even though it's one of these things like, okay, because they're saying he's paying the debts, but he's paying them late. But rather than like break an arm or break a leg, they just throw him in the pool with weights around his legs. I wonder if they would actually let him drown.
No, they just want to put the fear of God in him, you know.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because then, you know, how would they get paid? And it almost seems like a very inefficient way to send a message because it doesn't leave any marks, you know. And if they're doing it in the privacy of their own backyard, who's gonna know?
Well, I guess you hope for the rumor mill. You know?
Fair enough.
I mean, that's essentially what, and you know, and who knows? Maybe they do their own PR.
Maybe it is being videotaped and broadcast on YouTube. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we do see that, you know, their little grandkid, you know, Sales was it Blukowski? Yeah, sorry, Bleskowski, played by the incomparable Barbara Tyrrell, as our ma of the
bookie gang.
Yeah, the bookie gang. Sal Bleskowski. She you know, see her with her little grandkid who shows that, see, mommy, I can tie weights to my G.I. Joe too. And they're like, oh, isn't that adorable? And we do see then Eric, grabbing his head because, oh, the pain. And what we learn is that Eric has a superpower, which is almost as useless as the Peter Tingle. Maybe arguably more useless than the Peter Tingle, but we will have to see as it plays out. But he can essentially sense evil. The old D&D spell Detect Evil? He's got that. And it's on 24/7, and he can't turn it off. And the only thing that helps is booze and gambling and pretty ladies. So, he doesn't actually specify pretty ladies.
Right.
He's
all it specifies is promiscuous and permissive ladies.
Yeah, or like I said, he making other people happy. Let's say that.
Right.
This is technically a PG podcast, so we'll say making other people happy. And my point is, I don't want to make a judgment about what Eric Gelden gets up to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Honestly, they sell bourbon in all kinds of bars, and who is the who's the person of the week? He may not be that picky. He may be like, yep, that sounds good. You don't give me a headache.
And that should do wonders for her crisis of identity, of whether or not she's a good person or a hero or not.
Yeah, Well, or to be more specific, she isn't super evil. And this I think is going to come into this thing because, of course, it is this idea about it's funny when we think about it. Last couple episodes, we have Trish talking about being, Jessica's moral compass. Whereas Eric very much is literally a moral compass.
Right.
He is literally, that is evil, that is not evil. But, again, it's like, how can I make money off of the evil,
Right, because I think he alludes to as much, saying that he's sort of beat his head against the wall of trying to do anything to shift the balance for good, and he's resigned himself to making their lives a little bit more inconvenient, while maintaining, his ability to do so by covering his gambling debt so that he can sometimes forget about all the evil that he can't help.
Well, exactly, and but we do get a nice, interesting display of evil in this episode. Our first evil person is, and again, like I said, and it is this idea about as he gets closer, it hurts more, and the first person, just because like, what is this, insurance fraud? Which when you think about it, just to go to, and he's like, yeah, sure, maybe, it's like, because he just wants to get out of there. It's like, but of course it wasn't insurance fraud. It was far more disturbing and disgusting. As well it should be. And, this is a thing. And, and this gets them to their little argument, their little moral quandary. And this is the thing, and this is something, here's what I'm going to say. It comes in more as you watch the shows, but there is a character who is actually central to the Trish Walker story in the comics, who is Damien Hellstrom. And I do wonder if there is meant to be kind of a past in this Eric Gelden character. Because it is this idea of sensing evil, but also this idea that not only can he sense evil, but that, it's not worth trying to fight it. He's both saying there is evil here, and then, but you know what? The best you'll do. It's a 50-50 shot that you're actually going to make anything better.
Right, and is it maybe speaking to a portion of the human condition that it does need to exist, that our lives are simply, walking a seesaw and just balancing left and right, and that you can't really get rid of evil. It is intrinsic to who we are as a species.
Actually, you know what? I actually take a different take on his 50-50 statement, which is not that it's about balance. Because clearly evil's winning. Because like you said, if we took out if we did nothing but take out evil bad guys, we'd barely make a dent.
Right.
But what actually, did you ever see, what is it? It was on Hulu. It was the Stephen King series where the guy travels back in time.
Oh, 11/22/63 with James Franco.
Yes. Exactly.
Ooh, that was so good.
It was so good. then he just resets it all again. Because every time you try, something else happens.
Right.
And even actually saves Kennedy. And it's like, nope, now we live under fascism. Sorry, spoilers for that film that came out like 2 years ago on Hulu. But yeah, it is a great thing the way that can play out. That idea that it's not just that we're gonna go beat up the bad guy. It's that just understand that just because you think it's wrong doesn't mean that your actions don't have consequences, and that those consequences can be just as bad for someone else. And you think about it like a character like the Incredible Hulk, who destroys people's towns and cities and things like that. But then you say, but what if there never was a Hulk and there wasn't this hero at that time when he could do something else? Is he the hero? Is he the villain? And it's like, if you did not have Batman, would you have a Joker? If you did not have a Joker, would you have a Batman? It's
you raise one, the other one will raise to balance it out. So are you really, doing anything? Because it always needs to be in that balance. If you shift it one way, the other one will follow. And it's sort of, it's an interesting point that Jessica makes when she says, or it doesn't really say, but with her actions, I guess what she's saying is, if you can't really do anything, but if you don't do anything, are you shifting the balance in the other way also? Is it my role to continue to try? And is that how we maintain balance? By continuing to try.
Well, exactly, because that is what makes you a hero, is that you will never, that the role of the hero is not to defeat the villain, but to always inspire others to try and defeat the next villain.
Right, because I think the point is it will always be a fight.
Exactly.
And you can't think that the fight will ever be over. It will always be a fight, and you just got to pick a side.
Well, exactly. But yeah, and of course we do a nice little mix of kinds of villains. The next villain that we encounter is the woman who has been embezzling, and her first story is, oh, I was stealing money from petty cash because my mom was sick or something to that extent. But that's not really it, and as they find out, they don't show it, and then it turns out, no, she's actually embezzled millions from the company pension fund. Although that, again, mirrors what we're seeing with
Miss Hogarth
and Kit, and the very complex, moral quandary that Malcolm Ducasse finds himself in. Again, very similar to this idea. I have found a very bad person, but I'm being employed by a very bad person. And I know that this is all some kind of crazy, evil plot by this bad person I work with to, get a little trim. And or maybe the best trim of all time, or the trim that has haunted her nights for, the last week and a half, since she realized she was sick. Sorry, the last 2 seasons, because no mention of her up till this point,
Right.
It's sort of like, everyone seeks morality when they see their death.
Well, the funny part is Jerry's the complete opposite. She's just trying to use whatever manipulative tactics she can to have one last bit of feeling in control or feeling as powerful as she used to be.
I guess that's one take on it. And here's what I'll say. I think that is definitely the underlying truth. But I think the truth she tells herself is, I am being noble and I am finding love. And love is that grand, glorious, magical, friendship is magic, sonic green bloom kind of thing.
I think that sort of lie to oneself is shattered when she can't find any recourse through genuine means to get her. And when she finally decides that she does need to use this information, I think she's completely given in to the idea that she's going to be a bad person to get what she wants, and she doesn't care because she gets what she wants no matter what. That's who she is. That's what her identity is based on.
And for what it's worth, not more than that, but it's that she has what she wants, but she just doesn't possess it.
Right. Well, does she really have it, or
Well,
does Kith have her?
well, exactly. It's
Hmm.
not it's not what she it's not the thing she wanted. It's not the kind she wanted the yellow one.
Right.
Oh,
Right. Right.
that girl with like gets the push or something and it's the wrong color. That was it's that's all staged and it's that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
yeah, but that idea and that idea, but that is where she's at. She is a woman who is pretending to be ennobled while she is at the same time really just trying to own and control and you know, hurt other people without really care about how her actions will hurt these other people.
Right.
Because, because of course, as Malcolm does dig, he does find the secret, which is that the guy has been embezzling from their cancer charity.
For
Which,
their dead daughter.
yeah, so he can ship grad students.
Good Lord.
Oh yeah, and it's like, did he really need to do that just to buy them gifts? I haven't stripped a grad student in years. And I got it. At least when I was, maybe that was just the quality of grad students I was stripping. But I don't think they need that much. Now maybe if you're an old professor dude, you need a little more on the table. But I actually, again, I think it's this idea of bad people doing bad things.
Right. Or it could be like, but then I was thinking maybe it was to hide those gifts from his wife, but they have an open marriage, so it shouldn't really be an issue that he needs to hide at all.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, why would he need to do this?
Right.
I guess it helps the plot, and again, it allows him to feel more in control. You know, because he is clearly. I mean, do we get the bathtub scene in this one, or is that next episode?
That's next one.
Okay, so we won't talk about that. But again, those things imply that idea of a person who can't let go. Much like Jerry Hogarth, which kind of shows how Kith wound up with both of them. That he
Indeed.
she clearly has a type, and that is sadistic, manipulative, control freaks.
Mm. Mm.
Um, yeah, it is very interesting. As Jessica um, and Eric are tracking down the villain of the piece, we do and again we do see Malcolm's moral quandary, having to talk to his girlfriend about it, and those two crazy kids. I don't know. It's one of these relationships where you just want them to be happy, but you also know, oh, but is Malcolm the kind of person who allows himself to be happy? You know? Well, I do think there is a quality to that, where I think that Malcolm is the kind of guy who, and not for nothing, he's an addictive personality.
Right.
And a lot of addictive personalities are by their nature self-destructive.
I think there's also this aspect of rebelliousness from him after coming out of his situation before, being a drug addict and yada yada yada, and like trying to be good and being spurned for it. It's almost like oh yeah, well I'll show you what I'm capable of. And then when he gets there and it's like, wait a second, have I forgotten who I am? Where am
Yeah.
I? How did I get here?
That is the $10 billion question, isn't it always? How did I get here? This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. Um, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And of course we do get a bit more onto our villain of the piece this week, Gregory Salinger, played amazingly, I feel, by Jeremy Bell.
Oof, oof, so well.
I think Jeremy, but man, I don't know, but it's like it's kind of like Poindexter again with
Mm.
the perfect everything perfect, but it's like whereas Poindexter is doing that to try and control his madness. It kind of feels like Salinger. This is his madness.
Right.
You know?
And he doesn't have the physical prowess to fall back on. He's only got his mind as his tool, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, he has some physical skills, but yeah, it's always about trying to be one step ahead, you know.
Right.
Although, you know, it's one of these things where I kind of feel like, and this is definitely the kind of thing. This is the kind of character who, as the story progresses, I feel we are going to have moments of sympathy for, and then feel disgust at that we ever bothered to have sympathy for him. You know, because like so many people who play the, you know, you had an unfair advantage card, it's kind of like, well, actually, did someone have an unfair advantage, or were you just not good enough? And did you just want to see everyone else's success as their cheating rather than your failure? You know, or even not
Right.
even failure, just like, no, it just wasn't your time, kid, you know? Um, you know, that's, you know, that idea, you know, with the, you know, that it's not always the right time for you, you know, like, you know, pay your dues and keep your head down, and, you know, it might get to be your time and it might not. But just because you didn't get your time doesn't mean you shouldn't have love of what you do. At least that's the way I approach life.
Hmm.
You know, hey, I'm talking to at least 10 people right now, I imagine, and they're hearing my voice. And as a young man, I always thought about being in a situation where I could talk at things and people would be happy because I did so. And here I am. So, you know,
Hmm.
never ever apologize for stubbing your toe on the moon when you're reaching for the stars. Okay. Yeah. That is not the perspective that Mr. Salinger takes, though. We do see that, you know, she has figured out she breaks into Salinger's apartment, and you know, he actually comes in and he shows her the knife and kind of taunts her with it, and
Hmm.
when he puts it back, you know, and he says, "I gave you something. Now you're going to give me." You know, it just, you know, it's like, oh, when he says, you know, you broke into my apartment, he says, you broke into mine. He says, well, finally, it was fair. You know, it just, he is just such an unlikable guy, but at the same time, really well played to be that unlikable.
Yeah.
It's like I say, there's so many times I'm watching this character throughout this series, and I think, does he almost have a point? You know, I mean, not for nothing. To go back to it, man. That with Geldon and his whole, you know, cuts of meat in your hamburger. And I'm like, man. For those who don't know, Gregory Salinger is the Fool Killer. That's his character's name, and he tends to kill people who do not have poetry in their soul.
Oh,
That's the gag.
interesting.
Well, you know, but you know, it is what it is. Um, he's very, you know, he's an assassin and a killer, and he hates people that are, you know, he's kind of what was that Catcher in the Rye? What was that character?
Ooh, I don't know.
The main character of Catcher in the Rye. I'm blanking on his name. It was also written by J.D. Salinger. Gee, I wonder where he
Right.
got the character's name. But the main character of Catcher in the Rye, he's very he's actually like supposed to be like 18, 19. He's, you
Right.
know, he's a kid, but he's like very obsessed with the idea of phonies. Holden Caulfield. Thank you. Oh, that's the other name you see a lot in comic books. Shitty Salinger and Holden, and you know, are names that are going to pop up in every comic book you ever read.
But and
Because
wasn't the main character's name Holden in Mallrats?
yes, yes, it was.
Hmm.
And and of course, you know, Catcher in the Rye is the book that oh, what's his name? Chapman was reading when he murdered. Actually, was it Chapman or was it Hinckley? Well, I think they actually both might have been reading it. I think that's like the weird thing, is that they were both had
Yeah.
massively dog-eared pages of Catcher in the Rye, you know, which is why
Yeah.
many people think it drives you to be a crazed killer.
Hmm.
That's a popular urban legend for those who don't know. But yes,
Indeed.
so Gregory Salinger doesn't like phonies, and never imagines that he himself might be a phony. Um, I tell you, man, there's a part of me that thinks that they really got to check on those credentials on his wall, because you can print those things out, man. Just get your degree in engineering. That's just my kids are learning that right now at computer camp. It's just how do you create realistic looking things on your computer? So,
Although I've got to like the bravado with which he approaches even a dangerous situation says to me that those are probably real, because he seems to believe in his mental prowess over anybody else.
well, unless he's just a polymath, there's a movie that's actually based on a true story, which was, called The Great Pretender. And it was about a guy who was just a incredible polymath.
Okay, what's a polymath?
Oh, sorry,
It's just a mathematician.
A polymath means a guy who has learned a lot of things. And actually, it's also that he's an autodidact. Autodidact means I taught myself a lot of things. So if you're an autodidactical polymath, you basically taught yourself a lot of things. And there are these stories of these people who, basically were skilled enough to teach themselves how to be a lawyer, how to be a teacher, how to be whatever, and how to be a doctor. And to just sort of fake their way through it. But then when push came to shove, they actually were able to save people's lives at times as well, because they were able to absorb enough knowledge to actually do that. And it's an interesting story. And so, but one of the things they always say that is like these are guys who they never want to complete the school because they just get bored. Because they feel they know enough, and they probably know enough to get by.
Right.
But no one will hire you without that piece of paper, so they print up a piece of paper. Catch Me If You Can, if you'll recall, is kind of a similar story as well. I don't know if The Great Pretender was based on his story. I actually don't think it was, because that actual story has him performing surgeries during World War II. So I think there have been several guys who have done this in history who are documented as being these guys who have managed to lie their way through very complex things and to somehow come out the other side. So I personally believe that is his case. That's just headcanon. But that's my honest opinion. But when Jessica goes to break in, and she is being very blustery, as is her way, we do see that he basically has anticipated this, and he calls the cops and, makes her run, because, she is not in her depth at that moment. He has bested her in his own way. And that's a little frustrating if you ask me, but at the same time, if she, if she had outsmarted him in the fifth episode, this would be a much shorter series.
Right.
You got to let this guy have a couple of wins, because of course, at a level in this, why he gets the wins is because Jessica wants to be a
right. And she wants to do things like fair and by the book, and not have to rely on her powers to do it, which is sort of the thing she's struggling with about herself, I guess, in a little way.
Yes, and that is something that she and Trish will be struggling with in the next episode.
And in that way, accidentally, she is sort of the moral referendum to her character, her conscience, so to speak, in that way.
You mean Jessica is actually Trish's moral conscience?
No. That Trish going on the path where she's going, where she just wants to beat the answer out of people. Obviously that's not the right thing to do, and Jessica's coming to realize that, and she has to explain the decisions and the questions she's already had to ask herself and come to answers about that, Trish is only beginning to ask herself, or not even asking herself yet.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah, and I agree 100%. Okay, do you want to wrap it up here and then go to the next one?
Yes, because that's where it gets real juicy.
It does get juicy next episode. So, in the meantime, Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about juiciness or moral philosophy, or whether or not you should just jangle people off the roof until they give you all the answers you want, How can they reach you, Mozz?
Oh, they can find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor or email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and our fathers once did many a year ago, you can do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, The Orville, and which I can't really do because Orville's going to be on Hulu now, but whatever! At Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us once again for the AKA JonesCast. Mozz and I we are so happy you joined us. And just know, all we really want in this life is to just really be your friends. Good night.